He was a professor, and he wrote books about Kabbalah. He wrote books about Kabbalah, and he was very knowledgeable about. And he didn't keep Torah, not mitzvahs. Not God meant absolutely nothing to him. It was just an idea, right? It was not going to anything that was going to change his personality, his ways, right? He liked to eat this food. He's going to eat it. He doesn't care what God says, but he could understand God. He could understand why God says it. What aspect of God comes this is the commandment, and which level of godliness, and the spheros with the worlds, with this. He could understand everything, right? It was in his mind, but it wasn't in his heart. It wasn't in his heart. He says but the beginning of being in your heart is understanding. First of all, you have to understand God. If you want to bring it to your heart, that's a different story. That's a different story. We'll learn about that. But first of all, you have to understand God. When you start to understand God, so it says, Hitgalut. You have to understand what you can. Hitgalut. And the revelation of Atik, the revelation of this level of Atik, which we said that was the crown of God, God's will, who is Bebina, is an understanding. In other words, the level of Chachma is what we call self-negation. But where is pleasure revealed? Pleasure means I feel, I enjoy. This is what in Bina, in understanding. To Ik, or the main Gilui revelation, ha'oneg of pleasure, having pleasure in God, who is Bebina, in Bina. It's in understanding. Behasaga, when you understand something, davka only. Right? You're holding a diamond in your hand, and someone tells you, that's a diamond, don't throw it away. I won't throw it away. Don't throw it away. Don't throw it away. It's valuable. Don't throw it away. So then you start to understand, what's valuable about this thing? I don't understand. He says, what's valuable about it? You know what a diamond is? No idea. It looks nice. I don't know what you're talking about. What's it? So he explains what a diamond is, how much it's worth on the market. The more the person starts to understand, the more pleasure he gets. Whoa, you really, this is really, yeah. The more he understands, the more pleasure he gets. He had the diamond in his hands. That's like chachma. He had it in his hands. Like godliness is here. It's everywhere. Oh, he believes in God. But when do you start to have pleasure in godliness? Enjoy serving God. That's when you start to understand things. Only when you understand. Hainu. Mipene, because shehasaga, that understanding, shorsha, comes mibechinat, from the level of hatainu, pleasure. And now the Rebbe is going to launch into a big explanation of what is the source of chachma in our souls, and what is the source of bina. What is the source of faith, and what is the source of understanding. And the source of understanding is higher. We'll see.
How 2 lines up, there isn't, and then how do you translate that? Line Giloi.
The bechin is giloi. Semicolon, afterward giloi.
Yeah.
Delate that there is not.
Yeah.
Machshava, any thought, tefisa, that can grasp bay in him, in God. So understanding is higher than faith. We'll see how this is. How can it be? There's an advantage in understanding, right? And like it is written, quote, Ubenei Yisachar, it says, and from the children of Yisachar. Oh, we didn't do that? The yesh, and there is yitaron, an advantage, a highness, a higher quality, a betterness. I don't know how you say it in English. The yesh yitaron, and there is what? Yitaron is it means it's better. Yesh yitaron, there's something better. Huh? A strength. One is let's say the yesh yitaron. There is something better. Bebina, in understanding, shalamayla, which is more than chachma, than faith. Faith is awareness of God above understanding. Right? It's a surrender to God. Faith. Says the Rebbe, that faith, that's religion. That's the main thing. Says the Rebbe, you should know that faith is wonderful, it's great, but there's a big advantage of understanding God over having faith in God. Even though having faith in God reaches to levels which you can't understand, it's much, much higher. But still, nevertheless, understanding has an advantage over faith. How? We'll see. Kamosha Katuv, like it is written, quote, Umibnei Yisachar, from the sons of Yisachar, it means from the tribe of Yisachar, Yoda'eh, they know, Bina, understanding, Le'itim, for the times. In other words, the children of Yisachar have an advantage of Bina, understanding. But Omer Azal and the rabbis say that afilu, that even B'yamei Moshe, in the days of Moshe, in the days of Moses, when they went out of Egypt and they were in the desert and they heard God, they saw God at Mount Sinai. Lo eshtakach, there was not found. Okay, see where we are? Are you with us, Moshe? Yep. Lo eshtakach, there was not found kavasehu like them. Even in the days of Moshe, there were no Jews like there were in the tribe of Yisachar. Afterwards, when they went into the land of Israel, right? Usually the generations, the earlier generations are much higher than the later generations. And a big exception was Yisachar. Why? Because it said, by Moshe it says, Moshe said, Havu lachem, take yourselves. The Jewish people said that they wanted to have judges. Moshe said that they should have judges. It was hard for him to judge everybody, so Moshe said, Havu lachem, take to yourselves. This is a quote. Moshe said to the Jewish people, Havu lachem, take to yourselves. And it's being find anashim, people. You want judges? They should be people, chachamim, that are wise, nevonim, understanding, v'yaduim, and knowledgeable. V'achar kach, and afterwards, Moshe relates what happened. This is in the book of Deuteronomy. V'ekach, and I took, etc. Chachamim v'yaduim. I took people and I made them judges. Who did I take? Wise people and knowledgeable people. What about the people with understanding? Ilu nevonim, but people that had understanding, afilu, even b'yamei Moshe, in the days of Moshe, lo eshtakach, were not found. Chuli. But in regard to, what's it? Ve'ilu, this is ilu. Ve'ilu, and the word ilu means however. Oh, however. Ve'ilu, however, nevonim, people with understanding, afilu, even, b'yamei Moshe, in the days of Moshe, lo eshkachach, were not found. And there was the tribe of Yisachar, when they were in Israel, they had understanding. They had this power, this quality of understanding. And this quality of understanding was lacking even in the days of Moses. It was such a high thing that they couldn't find it in the days of Moses. The inyan is like this. Tehine, that hold, bina, this aspect of bina, this aspect of understanding, hagam, even though, shemekabelas, that it receives, Mechachma, from Chachma, Bina, even though the Bina, understanding, receives from Chachma, and there's understanding God. First of all, you have to have faith in God. You have to have faith that God exists. The faith is Chachma. And even though the Bina receives, that understanding receives from faith, Eino Mishtalshelet, it does not result Mechachma, from Chachma. Even though the Bina that Bina receives from Chachma, understanding receives from faith, having, receiving. In other words, let's have another example. Let's take, for instance, Albert Einstein, right? Albert Einstein, he understood that there was the relativity. How did he understand it? Because he had a sense, first of all, that there must be something like that, right? There must be some sort of a unified field theory or whatever he thought. There must be something. That level of being aware there must be something, that's Chachma. That's Chachma. In relation to mathematics or physics, whatever you want to call it, Chachma is the feeling that there is something but you don't understand what it is. That's Chachma. From this feeling that there's something is but you don't know what it is, which is Chachma, from this comes Bina. Right? When you think there is something, I don't understand it, from this, you want to understand it. The same thing was with Chachma, with God. Chachma is the found God exists. There is such a thing as God. I'm sure of it. The world doesn't exist. I'm sure of it. Do you understand it? I don't understand it. So it's good. Chachma is the feeling that something exists. Faith. Bina is understanding. So Bina receives, it's influenced by Chachma. But you should know, where does the existence of this thing called Bina, where does it come from? Where does it come from? Where does Bina come from in your soul? Not from Chachma. Chachma has its source, and Bina has its source. Right? Your ability, like the ability. It's almost like saying, the ability to hear, comes from your ability to see. First of all, people see, and then, after that, the power of seeing creates the power of hearing. It's not so. The power of seeing influences the power of hearing. Right? Certainly influences. But it doesn't create. So it says, Chachma and Bina, faith and understanding. Faith has an influence on understanding, but faith does not create understanding. Rather, understanding has a source of its own. Rock only, it's not mishtalshelet. It does not being created. Mishtalshel means it is not created from Chachma. Mishtalshel means the chain of creation. Mishtalshel means a chain. That Bina does not chain down. Mishtalshel, it means chain from Chachma. Understanding does not come from faith. Rak only, shemakabelet, it receives from faith. Avol but, lo, don't think, shebina, that understanding, atzma, itself, mishtalshelet, is created from Chachma. Don't think that Bina itself chains down from Chachma. It's not, this word mishtalshelet in our case means being created. The Rebbe is trying to explain to us the tremendous highness of understanding. Right? Don't degrade understanding. The Bina, you should know that there are a lot of people that do. That was the big opposition to the Hasidic movement. The Hasidic movement, especially Chabad, said that you have to understand God. In yeshivas, children, right, learned ideas about God, about Atzilus, about the Tzimtzum, about about Mesirut Nefesh, of these ideas about devoting God, loving God, fearing God, how you can do it, what you're supposed to think like this, these ideas, right, to understand them. There's other groups in Judaism that say that is totally insane, it's forbidden, you can't do it, you just have to believe in God and understand that you understand the Torah. You learn the Torah, you learn the books, you learn Talmud. That's what you use your understanding for, right? But not understanding God. That'll just get you into trouble, right? Says the Rebbe, no. You must understand God as much as you can, and even more. Understanding is higher than faith. How so? How is understanding higher than faith? Understanding is very, very... You can get somebody who understands more. He can explain to you how it's so... There's an alternative. You don't have to believe like God. Here, you know what Kant says, you know what Spinoza says, you know what these guys say. They were very intelligent people, right? Understanding is very dangerous. Understanding, you can knock somebody's understanding down, right? A person can say, you don't understand properly, you have to understand like this. So how can understanding be higher than faith? How can it possibly be? So that's what the Rebbe is saying. Faith has its source, understanding has its source, in the essence, from God. The Bina from Chachma, Eina is not bebechinat, the level of Hishtalshalut, a chain of Ila v'alul, cause and effect. The Ila v'alul, this thing, okay, ayin v'ayin, see the ayin v'ayin? Ila means cause, v'alul means effect, result. And we're going to talk about this more, God willing, next week. What does it mean, cause and effect? That Bina does not come as a effect, as a result from Chachma, but it has its own source, which is higher than that of Chachma. God willing, we'll talk about this next week. Now it's a little bit Kabbalistic we're getting.